Hey everybody, I'm back. It's been a while. I had to wait for a few parts to get in, but I want to fill you in on where I am with my my Fender Champ build-it-yourself amp that I'm working on. I've made quite a few changes since I've last posted a video, and I want to walk through what I've changed and explain why I've changed it. So just a quick walkthrough on the top of the chassis. You'll see here that I have my input 1 and my input 2, so there's going to be 2 inputs. I've got an 8 ohm speaker, and I'm going to be changing that, and I'll show you what that is about in a little while. I have my 12AX7 tube socket. I also have a shield that goes over it, and it's got the spring inside, and it protects it, and it obviously prevents noise. And then you'll see I have my 6V6 tube over here, very close to the transformer, and there's my 5Y3 tube. You'll also notice that I closed up these holes with blanks, okay? And I did that mostly for safety. The only one I haven't closed up is this one. And what I'm going to do here is just put a piece of metal grating or something so that heat can escape. Okay? And then in the front, I've got my volume control, obviously. I've plugged up the other holes here. I've got my dial pilot light and my power switch. You'll see here I've taken the logo off, and I'll talk about that more too. And you'll also notice that I have a new output transformer. And this is a classic tone 5-watt output transformer, which is very, very appropriate for the Fender Champ. And the reason why I changed it, the output transformer that I had in this thing originally, I'm almost positive it's more than 5 watts because there were 2 6v6 tubes in this thing. And I'm guessing this is probably a 10-watt output transformer. And because of the design of what I'm using, I think that's going to be overkill and probably will damage the amp if I ever try to power it on. So I decided to spend 20 bucks and get a 5-watt replica output transformer that would be used in a Fender Champ. Let's take a look at the bottom, and we'll talk more about what's going on there. Let me flip it over. Be right back. Alright, here's the underside, and you're going to say, well, where's all the stuff you connected in the last video? And I took it out for a reason. I had everything connected, and you know, it would have worked. The only thing I didn't have connected last time was the 12AX7. And when I went to go put the 12AX7 in and connect it, I said, you know, I just didn't like it, quite honestly. And you have to be comfortable with this stuff when you work on it. You have to like the work that you're doing, or it's just not as gratifying. And I decided that I was going to try something a little bit different. And the way that I made that decision was by looking at this layout. So this is a layout of the underside of the chassis. It's very, very simple, right? So you've got your fuse here. This is your depth capacitor, which I don't need because I'm putting in the ground. Your pilot light. This is your volume power switch. These are your 2 inputs. Here's the 12AX7. Here's the 6V6 GT. And then this is the 5Y3 rectifier tube. You'll see you've got your AC line coming in here. You've got your transformer lines coming out here. If you look at this thing, that's the components, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 electrolytics. You've got a resistor here, 2 resistors here, 1 here. This is a film capacitor, 2 more resistors, another film capacitor, 2 more resistors, and another resistor. That's the entire chassis underneath. Not a lot of components. You'll see most of it is just point-to-point wiring. So I thought about that and said, well, the way that these things are typically done is with a board. And I have one here, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the way these amps are typically put together. They have a piece of board that have holes in it like this. And this is not for this model amp, but this is what Fender used to use in these things. And they would do the point-to-point wiring on here with the components, and then they would have wires running out through these holes and going out to the tubes and the various transformer connections. And I thought about that and said, well, how can I replicate that? I'm not going to go out and buy a Fender Champ wafer board like this. I'm not going to do that. Then I thought about what I have in the house here, right? So what I ended up with is I have these project boards, right? So they're both sides, right? Pass-throughs. I'm able to solder on both sides, and they're all independent holes. There's none of them connected. And I thought about, okay, if I could fit all of the components on 1 or 2 of these things, I could kind of replicate what this board looks like. So let me show you what I've done. So I have two of these boards here connected to each other. And you'll see on this board, let me flip it around so you can see it. On this board, I have the 4 electrolytics. There's my 8, there's another 8, there's a 15, and there's a 22. I have my film capacitor, I have some resistors. There's a 470 ohm bleed resistor, that's a 2-watt job, so that has to be raised up so it doesn't burn anything. 2 more resistors there. There's another film capacitor, 2 resistors, and then 1 more here. That's it. That's all the components. Okay? And what I did underneath is, you'll see, I'm still working on this obviously, so it's a little sloppy, but you'll see I've got a ground rail here. All right? And where I need to do point-to-point wiring, I'm doing that from one board to the other. And the way that I connected these 2 boards was interesting as well. So all I did was I took a piece of stranded 18 gauge wire and created a little clip just like that, right here, and right here, and connected the 2 boards together and soldered it. And this thing is solid as a rock. And you'll see I soldered it underneath as well. So these 2 boards are connected simply by the pieces of wire. No connectivity or anything, but they're connected. So my plan is to finish wiring this, and basically what I'm doing is I'm putting a wire of a different color out of each of one of the connections. And you know, if you look at the layout here, you'll see that there's different wires coming out of this board, right? Going to the tubes, going to the volume control, going to the inputs, going to the speaker, etc. So I'm just basically following what this thing used to do. Now let me show you how I'm keeping myself honest on this thing, and we'll take a peek at that in a second. So what you'll see here is on my computer, I've basically drawn 2 circuit boards, and I've got all the components that I'm putting in, right, on this diagram here. Here's my 8 microfarads, here's my 15, here's my 22. I have them identified by which is the positive and the negative right here. And you'll see that as I connect these things, I'm running a wire of a different color. Right, and this is sloppy, but I'll explain why I'm doing it. So I've got all my colors here. I've got my orange, and then I indicate which pin it goes to. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. There's the volume left. Let's see if we can center this a little bit more on the screen. Yeah, maybe that will help. So you'll see here that this goes to 12AX7 pin 1, the green, and then I've got the red going to the 12AX7 pin 2. Here's a ground. Here's 12AX7 pin 6, and this one goes to the 6V6 pin, and I haven't created the rest of the connections yet coming off of those electrolytics, and you'll see that's right here. I haven't connected any of this yet according to my diagram and according to the bottom of the board, so this is what's left. And then you'll see I've got these 2 resistors right here going to 12AX7 pin 8, and to really make this foolproof, I've drawn out a 12AX7 and I've got it color coded by pin, right? So 4 and 5 here are my filaments. I've got my 1, 2, and 3, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 goes to ground. And I'll do the same thing with the 6V6 tube. So that's where my colors come in. So let's go back to the board that I created, and just a few more things I want to show you about that. Okay, so back to my Frankenstein board here. What I'm going to end up doing is mounting it directly onto the bottom of this chassis. Now you'll see here in the corner of these boards I have some holes, right? There's a hole there, there's one there, there's one here, and there's one here which I probably won't use because it's close to that resistor. And the way that I'm going to connect these things to the chassis is with standoffs. I have this little standoff kit here, which I'll show you. Basically, you drill a hole in the top of the chassis, you stick this through the top, and then there's a screw hole. And if you look, I've got different screws and different size nuts and things that I can mount this board directly to the inside of the chassis. And I'm going to collect all of these wires that are here, and I'm going to group the ones that go to the 12AX7 neatly, and I'm going to group the ones that go to the 6V6 neatly. And I'm going to route them in this area and make sure that it's nice and neat, make sure that I reduce my hum, make sure that I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. Now the output transformer, last thing I want to show you on that, is the original output transformer for these things has the ability, I believe, to do 4 and 8 ohms, or at least this one does. So you'll see here that the common is black, and then I've got yellow and green. Yellow is 4 ohms, green is 8 ohms, it's 5 watts. And I'm going to put a 3-way selector switch in there so you can select between 4 ohms and 8 ohm speaker. Also, on the power side of this, I've got my common red, and I've got a 5K ohm and an 8K ohm winding. And I'll figure out how I'm going to connect that. I don't know if I need both. I don't know if I need just one of them or what that means. I'm going to do a little research on that before I connect it. But obviously, if I go back to this diagram, let's just look at the colors here. So we're dealing with red, brown, and blue. If I look at my wiring diagram, you'll see that right here, coming off the top of the chassis, which is the output transformer, I have a red, right? And it's going to the positive side of the 15 microfarad cap that I have in there. And then I have a blue coming out and going to pin 8, the 6V6 GT. So that covers the red and blue, right, of this connection. What I don't have covered is the brown. Now typically the brown would end up going to another 6V6 tube. So my initial speculation is that brown wire isn't used. It gets capped off, but I'll figure that out. So that's my plan, and then this thing will be very, very neat underneath, and I'm hoping to have a test on this thing real soon, and hopefully that it'll be nice and quiet. So that's why I've taken the time to remove the components that were in there and come up with a different plan. Is I want it to be neat. You know, I'm doing this as a learning experience for me and for you. And as I said, I'm going to be giving it to somebody when it's done. And I want it to be safe, and I want it to be neat. And the reason why I mentioned earlier about the death cap is I put a 3-prong cord in this thing. And you'll see that I have it grounded to the chassis, so there's really no need for that death capacitor. There's a 3-prong cord. And I've also put a fuse in there. There's my fuse holder. It's a 2-amp fuse, 125 volt. And I've got that wired in to the brown leads coming off of the transformer. Alright, so my next step is going to be, let's get these filaments all connected correctly, wound up nicely, load to the chassis. Then I'm going to drill my holes for the circuit card that I'm going to put in here. Again, using this as a template, I have the holes right here. Right, and I'll be able to do something pretty similar to this, like right here, 2 of these right next to each other. And they'll be off the chassis, so no danger there. And then by this weekend, I should be able to power this thing up, and let's see what it does. So that's my update. I have all the parts that I need now. It's just a matter of me taking my time, doing it slow, and making sure that I don't make any mistakes. And when I get done with this thing, my goal is to power it on and have it work. Anyway, that's my update, folks. So thanks for watching. Feel free to leave any comments, and I will come back to you when I have another update for you. Thanks, everybody. This is Ron.